Alright, well, I think we can go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn down the music slightly. And hi, new overlay. This is Brandon, aka Ashenworks, and we are doing a little bit of the Ashen Workshop this morning. The plan today is Downtime in D&D 5th edition. Now, last time we worked on this was the last time I did an Ashen Workshop, which was back in October. Hey, Gary, welcome on in. But yeah, we're just going to work on this for at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and just hang out. So, I did think about making this a magic deck building episode, but I didn't have a concept in mind. So here we are. And I need to figure out how I would do that efficiently. So what we're going to do is kind of review, because it has been since October since I looked at this document. So we're going to review, and then we're going to work on the second activity, which was manage assets, and see how that goes. Bought a big house in your 5e game on Thursdays. Nice. So let's see. So we started with kind of the question of what do we like and dislike about Downtime in D&D? We like the diversity of activities. There's something for everybody. And the complications that are in Xanathars can add a neat twist, even if they're not really used. Which I feel like that's something DMs who use Downtime don't use very often. And that's partly because it may feel bad if you roll really poorly and on top of that you get a complication. Which we talk about a little bit later. Dislikes, some activities just feel like a cash sink, the price of entry versus the reward. I really think that with like religious service and carousing in Xanathars requires a lot of gold at the beginning for a couple favors that the DM may or may not let you take the way you want. Tied to a calendar or time-based system, it's too concrete for me. I understand there's some back and forth on this of like keeping your in-game calendar, but I would much rather use a system called Clocks, which is used in Blades in the Dark and other Forged in the Dark and Powered by the Apocalypse games, to keep track of activity, whether that be a villain achieving a goal or the party trying to get a favor from someone. It's much easier to track that on an ambiguous clock rather than like a concrete, you will accomplish this in 3 weeks. The other thing is, it feels the same at every level. Like, if you look at stuff like creating magic items, it doesn't actually require a roll to achieve it. And I'm not saying it needs to, but it should at least be easier to do at higher levels. It should be easier for a 20th level character to make a legendary magic item than it is a first level character. Then the system feels entirely different from the main game. There's not too much you can do about that, but if you make it something that's a part of your session, then it becomes more fluid. Like, if you're designing a campaign that's Blades in the Dark style, where it is you go on a mission every week, and then at the end you do Downtime, then you can work through this and have the system in place where it's maybe 10 minutes after the session is done. You're still in the session, but it feels more like the second half of the game rather than a completely separate piece that's optional and you may or may not do it all the time. It just doesn't work as well. And then questions left unanswered. This is something that I'm going to write probably a whole paragraph on. When is the best time for Downtime? And the answer is, at least in my opinion, wherever the party can rest and work on something else, something that distracts them from the main quest, or the main objective, whatever that may be. And so, thinking in like, actually, Gary, I'm going to use you as an example. You're in a Curse of Strahd game right now. When I ran Curse of Strahd, I never gave downtime, and it was because you don't have the resources, first off, and like no one's willing to help you with that. And so when you're in stuff like that, a lot of these activities tend to not work. Like you could maybe do work, but I don't know if you would ever get the amount of money that the work activity gives you. You could do crime. Good luck finding anything valuable. Gambling, maybe. Pit fighting, probably. And then a lot of this other stuff, like nobody's gonna want to work with you because you're an adventurer and you bring Strahd here. So kind of figuring out how to tie all that in. And then Blades in the Dark has clocks, which I've already talked about. Long-term projects, which we actually end up making one of our activities later down the line. Has complications in engagement or entanglements, and then makes great use of rivals and factions, which I think is something D&D needs more of, or at least better, easier access for. Because there's a lot of factions in D&D, but we don't really use them the way the book talks about them. So, did all that. And then we listed out all of the Xanathar activities, the Stronghold and Followers activities, Kingdoms and Warfare, and then Blades in the Dark. And the goal was to come up with 4 to 5 genres of downtime. And we ended up coming up with long-term projects, manage assets, preparation/recovery, and then side gigs. Long-term projects is anytime you want to make something. So, crafting an item, scribing a spell scroll, building a stronghold. Just as examples. Kieran Comfort Studios. I don't have stream alerts. I need to set those up. Thank you for the tier 1 sub. Welcome on in. Glad to have you on. We're just working on some downtime rules. And I'm basically just taking the Blades in the Dark system and making it work for D&D. Because I like blades. Yeah. I love downtime. I wish it was easier to implement, which is what this is for. Because I feel like whenever I do downtime, I have to have a spreadsheet with a calendar and all this other shit. So this is where we are. Next up is manage assets. Basically anything that came from a long-term project, this is probably what you would use. Buying and selling magic items, carousing, so getting favors from people, religious service, could also be looped into preparation and recovery, but this specifically gives favors from your god or the church, depending. And then attending affairs for your stronghold, which deserves its own bit in the manage assets because that's going to have different complications because it's your stronghold, not yourself. So we probably won't cover that today, but that is one to keep an eye out on. And then preparation and recovery, basically, as it says, researching something, training something, or just relaxing. The main reason recovery's in there is because I had no place to put relaxation without making a 5th one. So here we are. And then side gigs. Ways to make money without adventuring, because for some reason that needs to happen. Story on that, I come from I love 5th edition compared to what I started in. I started in a 1st/2nd edition game. I have never touched 3rd or 4th. 1st and 2nd, you used to get XP for gold. I think it was 1 XP per gold piece. And if you missed a session, you didn't get any XP because you didn't get any rewards. So, having ways to make money on the side was about the only way I could keep up. And that's the only reason I keep side gigs. Is because if someone decides that Yeah, loot gaming. Basically, like, I was playing Borderlands, but if I missed a session, I was 5 levels behind. I think I was like 7 or 8th level. 7 or 8th level before the end of that campaign, whereas I had friends who were 10th and 12th level, and I was just like, I was a ranger, so I got druid spells instead of a second attack, which would have made those fights a lot easier. But here we are. So we had crime, gambling, pit fighting, and work. My other thing about this is they're all essentially the same thing, but have drastically different rules. And I'd rather see like a centralized system for that. The work may end up being like, if you're not doing anything that requires a roll, it's probably this base sum for that week, or depending on how many successes you get. Whereas pit fighting, gambling, and crime probably is still going to have that 3 roll system, but the way you set the DC is going to be different. But again, we'll get to that when we get to that. Things I didn't cover: intrigue, because I haven't read enough of Kingdoms and Warfare to really talk about domain turns. And then Blades in the Dark is what we used as our baseline, so I just took a lot of this and went from there. And then we'll get to that in a minute. Let's see. So then we got into what the tier system should look like, because one of our main dislikes, great system to help supplement this, would be Lancer. They don't get too in-depth, but they lay some solid groundwork. I actually have, I think my Lancer book's in the other room. No, it's right here. Yeah, I was supposed to be in a Lancer game, but schedule didn't work out, so I was reading. We will look at this in a little bit, because, oh wait, here we go. If your character isn't on a mission, you're in downtime. This is the narrative space between missions in which moment-to-moment action doesn't matter as much, and role-playing matters much more. During downtime, you can progress plots, projects, or personal stories, moving the clock forward as much or as little as you want. Days, months, and even years can pass in downtime depending on the pace of your game. Things are divided into scenes, and you can go from there. Nice. I will read into this later. Thank you for that suggestion. And then, yeah, so one of our main dislikes was feels the same at every level. The example being a 1st level character and a 20th level character. Infinite amount of gold, infinite amount of time, can both make a legendary item in the same amount of time. Why? Why can they do that? So we came up with a tier system. So the number in the box is the minimum for 1 success and also a complication. So success at a cost. So for trivial, it's a 5 at tier 1, and then after that it's 0. Basically what that means is you don't even need to roll if you just want the success and then take the complication. As long as it's a trivial task. Easy gets a little more difficult. Medium gets more difficult. Hard, deadly, also known as legendary. So, if we're talking making magic items, it's going to be nearly impossible for a 1st level character to make progress on a legendary magic item. And also that clock is going to be very large. It'll probably be a 12-12. So 12 planning, 12 crafting. Actually, I have it written out. It'll be at least 10 and 8. So that's 18 successes you have to have, and you have to have all of this gold. So then you look at a tier 4 character, and it's only a 10. So like on average, you're gonna get success in a complication, and then the higher your roll is, you get more successes and no complications. The last part of that is you can say yes, but it's complicated. So you get a +1, but you guarantee a complication. That's it. And this gives us a nice system to say this is our baseline. All activity is built out from this table. So that way, when you look at trivial, easy, medium, hard, deadly, and you look at the rarities, but earrings of message would be easy for a 20th level wizard to make. Absolutely. Because earrings of message are uncommon magic items, because those are essentially sending stones. So they're uncommon magic items. So at tier 4, you just roll to see how quickly you make them. You're not rolling to see when you make, or if you can make them, it's when you make them. Because if it's easy, or an uncommon, that's 4 planning, 4 crafting, so you need 8 successes total. So it may take you like 2 rolls, maybe. 2 rolls, 2 complications, whatever. So yeah. Then we got into last time. Oh god, we're still reviewing. We got into long-term projects. Also, sorry, I'm a little stuffy this morning. Hydrate? Oh yeah, I don't have channel points on here, do I? I'll add those in. I have a to-do list for Huntsman's Hydra. Which also, by the way, for those in chat, if you're not already in our Discord, you should probably hop in there because, yeah, it is 3 Fahrenheit outside right now. It feels like -15. I was not a happy camper when I went outside this morning. But that's fine. So check out the Discord. The other reason I'm posting it is it's not on Twitter yet, but there's 2 casting calls in the Discord right now. One for Blades in the Dark, one for Swords of Serpentine. Both run by amazing GMs, Jamie Wolf and Commander Pulsar, respectively, who you've probably seen play Magic with us here on Wednesdays. So, check that out, and I'm going to have another... There should be another casting call soonish, but that might just be for guest appearances. I haven't decided yet. But yeah, so check that out. We were on long-term projects, so crafting items, building strongholds. Kind of start with determining the details. What are you making? What skill do you plan to use? How rare is this item? Is it consumable? Do you have a known recipe? You know, if it's a common item, most people know how to make it. But if it's a legendary item, do you have the plans for it? And then do you need any special materials or methods? And is there anything else you wanted to add? Not covered by those questions. This is almost literally what's in Blades in the Dark, and what it's supposed to get the player to do is think about what kind of item they're actually making and what may go into that construction. So let's take a Flame Tongue Longsword. What are you making? Flame Tongue Longsword. What skill do you plan to use to make this? Either blacksmithing or arcana, depending on what's required. How rare is this item? Is it consumable? It is a rare item. It is not consumable. But you could add that it has limited uses to make it different. Do you have a known recipe for this item? No. So you're going to have to spend time planning. Special materials or methods required. This requires the essence of a flame elemental in order to be constructed. I can get that by casting Conjure Elemental and then killing the elemental. So you may need to play out that combat if it's even required. Depending on your level, you may just one-shot that thing. And then is there anything else? I want to inscribe this with a spell scroll quality. So what I want to do is I want to inscribe on the blade the ability to cast shield once per day. And that will up the cost. Probably bump it up to a very rare item and change some of these requirements. You then determine the character tier. Say we're a tier 3 character. Determine the rarity and if it's consumable. Very rare. No, it's not. Roll with skill of choice, approved by the GM, and consult the table. So let's say I make a 20 on my Arcana check. We're doing a very rare. I have to plan it. So very rare at tier 3. Plus 10. So I get 2 successes on that. So it's going to take me a while to make this item because of what I want it to do. But you can then bypass that by other things. Maybe you get another wizard to help you work on it, and they also make a roll, or something along those lines. There's ways to navigate this to make crafting easier while still staying in your lane, I think is the best way to put it. Because, like, yeah, you're going to roll well. Like, if it's a skill you're working in, you're going to roll well on it, but it's still going to take you a bit to get anything done. And that was kind of the point. And it was to get you to take complications, because complications can make a good story. It's like a devil's bargain in Blades in the Dark. Finally, if the item is consumable, the player can choose to either reduce the time needed, reduce the clock by 1 tier, or reduce the overall cost, which would reduce the tier 1 cost per roll or the tier 1 starting cost. And you could probably choose to do both. I don't think that would make a huge impact on the game. Players are usually made of money in 5th edition, so. So yeah, that is what we had. That is what we had for long-term projects. Next, we're going to talk manage assets. And the way I imagine manage assets is making allies, finding resources, maintaining relationships. That covers a lot of our core attributes for those activities. What does that actually mean? And we're gonna be focused just over here. So, people. Gaining favors, or access to things. So, like, wizard that can help with crafting a magic item a number of times, or access to his or their private stock of alchemical components. So, maybe you're trying to make a potion, and the only person who has access to the special route without you going and getting it yourself is this wizard who lives in town. You can then do a manage assets to bypass some of the crafting requirements. And that's how these can kind of interact with each other. And then we get into questions to ask. What do you want from this person? How do you plan to get this? How do you plan to get this? And is use of this temporary? And temporary is an important word because in Blades in the Dark, it usually means to borrow an item. For instance, we borrowed a ghost killing dagger from the I'm forgetting the names. The weird no, it's not the Weird Sisters. It's the something sisters in Blades in the Dark. Um, and it required Jamie's character, who was a whisper, to make a deal where we would give up some information that we had and they would provide use of the dagger. There was a trade there. Um, so that kind of gets into the next section of questions the GM ask. What would this person want in return? Do they need anything in return? And um, and then how will this change their relationship with the party? Is it for good and bad? And then finally, is this something they would give willingly? Because it may be the wizard doesn't want anyone in their private stock because it's hard to get those items again. So in that case, persuasion's not going to work. You know, you may need to intimidate this wizard into giving you access, or to at least providing a better way to get to it. And that gives the GM some room, because it may be you're not giving exactly what the player wants, but you can give close enough that it's still a success. And these can turn into long-term projects, which kind of feeds back into this table. We'll come back to that. So then you're looking at things, and it becomes buying / selling goods, and then if we look at our table, I believe buying and selling goods, and then attending affairs, the stronghold activity. Which doesn't come up in this instance. I'll probably write something separate for the stronghold rules. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have a little bit of my breakfast. Actually, I'm not gonna apologize. Y'all can never hear it on my microphone. I'm a writer. Still use spell check. So this one's a little easier. At least for the player. And when it comes to the GM, so questions to ask: what items are you looking for? How rare is it? Is it consumable? And do you want this item permanently or temporarily? Questions the GM can ask. And then acquiring assets for specific use. I need a ballista for this mission. Something like that. So what item are you looking for? How rare is it? Is it consumable? And do you want this item permanently or temporarily? Questions the GM asks, how easy is it to locate this item? Is it easier / harder than the rarity, or is the rarity the right motive? Is this something that can be bought in the first place, or is this something that you need to return a favor on? And then who is willing to buy this item? Are they willing to pay more or less than the cost of the item? Because they may not, they're willing to buy it, but they're not going to buy it at full cost. That's of no use to them. Or maybe they're desperate and they're willing to pay more to get it now. We'll come back to temporary assets because that comes to what our clocks end up being. So for this one right now, I'm not going to put a gold cost to it because, again, I don't want everything to... Well, there'll be a gold cost when we get to the magic item portion. But, let's see. Oh, the other part of this is... How difficult is it to access this person? And this is for the people section of manage assets. Because bring back the easy, medium, hard scale from this, and we keep the same difficulty. So, so in this case, instead of looking at, how this is planned, this is, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this. It's like it's a time sink, and it's in terms of clock slices. So a common task will take no time at all. You can finish it as soon as you roll. Or actually, there probably isn't even a roll associated with this right now. You just do the thing you need. Uncommon / easy, it's a 4-piece clock, and you're using persuasion to get this item, or intimidation, or maybe sleight of hand. Depends on what you need. And then it just continues upward. So that's your time sink. Or I guess this really just comes into successes required in terms of clock slices. And then we're going to buying cost and selling cost. And these are both going to be in GP. Remember to put your units in your table, folks. And all we're going to do for this is I'm going to pull up Xanathar's in D&D Beyond. We're going to look at what it has. And so, buying cost is 1d6 plus 1 times 10 GP, 1d6 times 100 GP, I actually don't mind the buying tables, the buying and selling tables. I always felt like crafting shouldn't have had as much concreteness to it, because some people are going to figure out ways to get around this. 2d6 times, and then I'm going to add commas because I'm forgetting things. That is not the right spot for that. There we go. So this seems fine, at least for asking price, because people are going to ask for more or less than what they should. And then we look at selling a magic item, and they do 50, 100, and 150% of the base price. And so I think what's the best way to do this? Best way to do this in this table, I guess, is what I should be saying. Because it's 100 GP times, and that's going to be D20. The 1 to 10 was 50%, 11 to 20 was 100%. Huh. Okay, I'll have to play with that, but it's times X. And we'll figure out what X is. My brain doesn't want to math this morning, so that's fine. And that'll get us these. It's like, if you're having a hard enough time finding a buyer for these, you should get whatever the price ends up being. And then we'll just... There we go. Cool. Got that going. Second. There we go. So, this is like the baseline for managing assets. All you really need is this table right here. And then asking these questions. So, if I need access to a wizard who I can sell magic items to in the first place, like let's say I don't know who to sell to, so I find this wizard who's really interested in magic items. We'll say that's a rare task to find the one wizard in town, in this big old town that's willing to buy from you. You need 6 successes, so that's a 6-piece clock, and you start rolling. And you finally manage to get access to him, or maybe you get success through other things you're doing in the meantime. Like maybe you attend a party and you know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy, and that gets you a free success. Now you're tying in success in the downtime activity to the adventure, which is a way to kind of blend the two together and get out of that mindset of these are 2 separate activities. Actually, that is something... Hey, Tom. Yeah, my birthday was Wednesday. Hope things are going well. And appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah, my birthday was Wednesday. I popped a tire that morning and spent the evening playing Magic the Gathering. So, you know. It was a neutral day. And then... and now I just am working on some downtime. Which actually, when we get back to doing strings attached, I'm planning to use some new downtime rules to give y'all ways to do things you may not get to do in the adventure. I'm currently waiting on a sneeze. So if an asset is temporary, how long can it? Busy as usual. Yeah, I feel that. How long can it be used for? Why is it temporary? Does this reduce the time or the cost? I guess this would just be time. So, yeah. I think this is manage assets in a nutshell. This is something where I'm going to have to run it by people who do downtime a lot more than I do. And see what they think. And kind of, I had probably be on a call with them because a lot of this requires that Blades in the Dark mindset, which I feel like, at least the people I know who run downtime haven't touched it yet. I would love to run them through Blades in the Dark because I think they would love it. But we'll see. So yeah, that is manage assets. So next up would be preparation recovery, which is training, research, and relaxation. My main goal there is to just get research and training kind of in the same realm in terms of what you actually get out of it. And because research, you have a lore wizard, you're popping up 3 facts about whatever they're researching pretty much every time they roll, which can get kind of ridiculous. And then add on the use of a library and whatever that may mean for them. What stronghold or base features can improve downtime performance? So I wrote that question down because there's going to be a section on like if you have access to a library, you get a +1 success in these activities. Like scribing a spell scroll, because you'll have access to writer's tools and hopefully magical ink and everything else. But with that, I think we're going to go to break. So I'm going to turn up our music and then go to break screen. We're going to take about 5 minutes. So be back in 5, everybody. There we go. I think I'm gonna set up stream elements this afternoon because like this is pretty bare. Just looking at the overlay. But welcome back, everybody. Hope you stretched, hydrated, took your potions if you needed to. It is around lunch. Or got a cup of coffee. Coffee is not hydration, but it is nice. As I just throw my water cup, everything is fine. My card's out of the way. 1 second. Okay, we're good. We're good. Okay. So, we are working on Downtime in D&D 5th edition. We just finished up Manage Assets, at least our outline of it. I feel like once I throw this in layout, I'll be doing a lot more writing in terms of like how to explain these things. And looking at the structure Blades in the Dark has, and kind of comparing it to Xanathar's and seeing what that writing process looks like. Because the nice thing about Xanathar's is it is super simple. It is just roll the die, and if the result's good, success. If it's not, oh well. But you have to keep track of weeks and days, and I'd rather that be more ambiguous, which does require a new system, unfortunately. But next we are working on preparation / recovery. Move this up here. So, preparation and recovery. Research, training, relaxation. Relaxation, only really wow, one knot looks good. Might have to give one note looks good, might have to give that a try. Yeah, I've been toying with other ideas just because it's I have trouble accessing it while I'm at work because it's like if I have downtime at work I try to write. But it kind of comes into like my work OneNote versus my personal OneNote start conflicting. Or I just don't have as easy access. Like my tablet refuses to open OneNote unless I'm at home on Wi-Fi. So it turns into some trouble there. So I've been looking at other things for like when I'm on the go. But if I'm at home working, OneNote's my easiest. And like I love that I can organize it. Like I have all of my random writing in one section. And then blog posts all get thrown into one. Also, here's some hints if you can read any of this on what might be coming this year. And then I split my games up based off the world name. So Terrax is my first homebrew world. Sarcanum is the one from Strings Attached. Any homebrew stuff that I don't plan on posting, I throw in here. And then campaigns that specific campaign notes kind of all ended up in one spot. You have World of Terrax, which became my big West Marches game. Enemy from Below, which was actually a culmination of Curse of Strahd into Tomb of Horrors into an Underdark campaign, and then any one-shots I've run that weren't for charity. So plenty of stuff here. And then I also have another section for tabletop RPGs and some stuff I was working on. And then job hunting, which hasn't gotten used as much. I'd rather just keep all the files and go from that. I have a feeling I know what this tweet is, but let me double check. Yep. So yeah. Research, training, relaxation. Relaxation only comes up when a long-term effect such as exhaustion or stress effects, because we don't use the other word here. Oh, no problem, Monk. That's what the Ashen Workshop is. It kind of turns into an Ask Me Anything slash I get some work done. Like, this is just a very chill time to hang out. So relaxation only really comes up when long-term effects such as exhaustion or stress is involved. So we're not going to worry too much about that today. Research and training, on the other hand, what are you trying to learn? Is this a practiced skill? Hey, Commander, welcome on in. Hey, I saw you were streaming earlier. What were you up to? Also, unless that was just a misclick, because I definitely saw the tweet go out. So, a couple questions to start asking when you're learning what you want to do. You know, what are you trying to learn? Is this a practice skill? How difficult is this to learn? Because it also depends on what you're researching. Do you have access to a someone retweeted a going live notification from a while ago, I think. I should go live sometime soon, though. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were streaming today. I know you had brunch tomorrow. So, also, one thing I realized this I think this is going to end up being much different. So I'm going to delete these for now. Because their selling costs rely too much on that D20 roll, which isn't what I want. I want the variance of it, without worrying too much about that. Okay. Anyways. So. Let's see. So, research and training, what are you trying to learn? Is this a practice skill? I'd love to stream some game prep. The reason I haven't is in case someone I'm playing with were to watch, but being honest with myself, that's unlikely. I mean, like, that's fair to an extent. I think it's also nice to just show the process. Because, like, I'm working on downtime rolls, and it's because I wanted feedback from y'all. Like, Commander, you're my Blades in the Dark expert, so I like having you here because I talk a lot about what's in Blades in the Dark, and I may be misremembering something, or trying to go about it a different direction, so getting that feedback's nice. And game prep, when I've done game prep, it's been fun to just talk about the ideas rather than actually work on the prep. So it kind of depends on what you want out of it. Let's see. think now my next thing is gonna be I think now we just get to the table. See, header, or no, trivial, easy, medium, hard, deadly. Give. Okay, so difficulty, time, and this is block, and then cost, GP. Cost per success. We're going to use a table that we had before. So this is going to be trivial. The difference being this needs to well, hold on. I may be able to do some copy paste here. Nope. All right. 0, 4, 6, 8, 10. Hey, Zero. Welcome on in. We're working on some downtime rules for D&D because I don't really enjoy the ones we have. And then cost per success. What did I do on 5, 10, 100,000, 5,000? I don't want to go that far. Should cost more. 5, 10. Because you're paying someone for access to the information so that you can learn it. 5, 10, 20, 25, 50. And that'll be times this. You're paying 5 gold no matter what, basically. And I may have to play with these numbers, but this is just something to give us a baseline. Because what I'm thinking is if we look at Xanathar's, the way Xanathar's does research is, actually let me pull that up again. The way Xanathar's does research is based off a D20 roll, and if you get above average, it's 2 pieces of lore, which I never really know. I don't ever have a good gauge for like what constitutes a piece of lore. So I think this should just be you learn the thing you're trying to learn. Like you're just trying to learn about crop farms in this region of America. If you're at a library, that's a trivial task. Actually, let's make the clock 1. So trivial, you just need 1 success, which, depending on your level, basically means you don't even need to roll. You just do it and pay the 5 gold. And you learn about crops in America. Let's say you're trying to learn about Crexian, a demon lord from the Abyss. And that's all you really know about him. That's going to be closer to a hard or deadly challenge, depending on where you're researching. So, like, for instance, let's say you're in a library specifically for demons. That may take a deadly amount of information to a hard in terms of the difficulty. So now you're only looking at 8 successes instead of 10 to actually learn everything you need to learn. And then benefits of research besides just the info. Against a creature. Increased AC. Advantage on checks for that creature or effect. Sorry, side thought. The actual tangible benefits to research besides just, oh, hey, you know this now. Especially if I'm technically giving you less information by saying you get one large chunk of info instead of 3 separate chunks of info. So, if you're learning about Crexian and you're in a library devoted to demons, then now it's a hard, you roll the check. It's going to take you more than one attempt to finish that. Because I think the max you can make is 4 with a complication. So let's say you do that twice, you max out both times, then that's going to cost you 200 gold pieces to learn all of this information, and then maybe you get advantage on the roll against Crexian's Soul Overture. I had to remember the name of my own effects, which is basically the soul-sucking ability that can half your HP. So maybe you get advantage on that. So, and everyone can learn this information, but you're the only one who receives the benefits from actually doing the research. Or maybe like you're going up against a dragon and you get increased AC versus its claw attacks. You know, something of that nature. That really finishes up this table, other than also outlining for training specifics, you know, a skill, efficiency, expertise, and then we look at weapon, armor, tool, skill. Not really a better word for this. So, when looking at training, you kind of need to think about it in terms of, you know, what are you actually getting proficiency in, and then are you going for proficiency or expertise? Because let's say I'm already proficient in Thieves' Tools, and I want to be an expert in Thieves' Tools, but I don't want to use one of my expertise from Rogue or Bard. Well, you can train in it. It's just going to cost more. And what does that actually mean? And there's going to be variance based off of that. I think it's 1x or 2x cost, if I remember correctly. And then weapon, armor, tool, skill, or language. I think I made these 1.5x, 2x, 1x, 1x, or no, 2x, 1x. And that's based off what's in Xanathar's, because I think in Xanathar's you can only learn language or tools. Yeah, you can only learn language or tools, and it's about 25 GP per work week. That's gonna, let's see, 10 work weeks, so 250. Proficiency is always medium, or proficiency is always hard because that will get it to roughly the same amount of gold. And then expertise is always deadly with 12 time clock. Deadly with double/triple cost and double time. Feats are supposed to be hard to get, and if you're spending money to get them, that's great, but need to know what you're getting into. Sorry, I minimized the wrong thing. So this is training as in improving your characters. Does it mess with expected progression in 5e? Follow-on question, if it does, do we care? So it does mess with expected progression in 5e. I don't care. I personally don't care. What I would end up doing is saying, because also the other thing is the only way to learn new weapons and armor is through feats, which nothing against Wizards of the Coast, but a lot of people want to use weapons that may not be in their character archetype, or may want to play a very specific type of, maybe I want to play a heavy armor ranger. I don't know why I would ever want to do that, but let's say I want to. I don't get access to heavy armor unless I take heavy armor mastery. Maybe I just want the proficiency and I don't want the other stuff. Then I would just do this and it would be less cost. Okay, Zero has the right idea. Expected progression in 5e. I'm sorry, I can't hear you over the sound of the rules I'm feeding into this blender. It goes brrr. Basically. And if I was releasing this, the plan is to release this on my blog. Or for really cheap on my website. So I'm gonna say it's optional, but that I use it. Because if you go by Xanathar's rules, it's only language and tools. Which is cool, but that's not what anybody thinks when they look at training. When they think training, especially when I'm pretty sure the image with training is a Dragonborn shooting an arrow. Why is that your... Yeah, it is. It is a Dragonborn, what looks to be sorcerer, training with a bow. Hold on. Look at this. This is from D&D Beyond. Why would you put this image with training and you can't learn a new weapon? Why? Why would you do this? It makes no sense. None at all. Steel disc mechanic. Yes, I agree with that. And yeah, Xanathar's is too narrow. We did so the first time I worked on this was back in October. We did a whole like and dislike section. That I'm pretty sure was the first hour of stream, just to boil it down to this. And then I've been slowly adding to the questions. A module of schools for this kind of downtime. Love what you're doing with it. Appreciate it, Zero. I did have... there's actually... Is it in... Y'all are going to get a small preview of Case of the Wayward finale, which, by the way, I believe is still on sale. Let me go get that link. I don't think it's on Newest anymore. Oh, yeah, it is. So y'all are getting a small preview of Case of the Wayward finale, but by the way, all of my stuff is still on sale for 26% off on DM's Guild until tomorrow, I think. Another thing is, so few games get to levels higher than 12 to 15, so let progression ramp up, let the players see the cool stuff they probably actually won't get through normal play. Exactly. There is also a version of training where you earn the ability to learn something from a different class. Which I'm going to put... this would probably be like 4x everything, but that would be cool. Like if I'm a rogue and I want aura protection. Yes, exactly, Commander. Stealing Blades veteran mechanic. Is exactly what I wanted to do. Anyways, small thing with Case of the Wayward Finale. There are books called the Books of Tutoring, which gives half time to learn a skill or proficiency. And so, like, I'm already adding in things to change how training works. And this is the rough draft version. There's actually a longer paragraph with that basically is like, randomly roll what skill or proficiency this is in, and reading this book for however many hours gives you proficiency in that. So, things of that nature. So yeah, I think this is a pretty good baseline for preparation and recovery. I think there is more here. As many people as I've heard say multiclassing is crap, I like the idea of having a way to multiclass without multiclassing, at least to steal the good stuff. Yes, I agree with that. So my problem with multiclassing is that when I want to do it, I need to essentially build the character around that concept. It doesn't feel in the moment as I want it to be. Like, I had this really cool... I had a druid who, at the time, I was doing Circle of the Land. We didn't have Tasha's or Xanathar's yet, and I just wasn't feeling it. And I needed something to spice it up. Attach some quick solo quests, and you've got something that feels earned, fun, and character specific. Which, by the way, if y'all haven't checked out Matt Koval's video on rewards, I think it gives a lot of the same thought I was giving here, and is hitting a lot of what we talked about already. Yeah, it's rare to run into someone whose character actually had a change in life and character and wanted to pivot profession. So I actually do that on purpose. I make it a house rule that you need to give me some reason why this may happen. And it can happen off screen. I just need an idea of why you're suddenly picking a different class. And it is because I know they're multiclassing for a mechanic, but I want to tie it into the story. So I had a druid who died. Or almost died. I think it was a near-death experience, and he was like, I want more power. And so he made a deal with an archfey. And we had this whole side tangent of him finding this archfey, making this deal, understanding what the deal was. And then I had to go on vacation so I missed a session. And I come back, and it is my character emerges from this beautiful flower portal, which basically a giant flower comes up as a bud and blooms, and I step out, and then it just deteriorates because I had made myself a plague druid before we had Circle of Swarm, or Circle of Spores, excuse me. And so this really dramatic, thematic effect happened that we weren't going to get without me doing that multiclassing. But we could have with me just getting, what I wanted out of Warlock, and then us kind of building out what that meant for me. Maybe that meant I replaced class features, or I took that as a feat, which also I've talked about doing feats for class abilities. Maybe I want a feat that gets me sneak attack. Why not? It's not going to break too much. You're giving up an ability score improvement. And you can tie it to the multi-classing requirements. Maybe you still need that ability score to even take the feat. So sure, no multi-classing unless you're making a life change, but if you just want the thing, here's a downtime way to get it. And that's usually the caveat for me. I also like giving magic items that have class abilities attached to them. Because, like, I love giving out swords that have auras. So if you're within 10 feet of this person, you get X ability. And then on top of that, if you're a paladin or have a level in paladin, you automatically get the 30-foot benefit. So even if you're not the level for it yet. So I basically take what's in Holy Avenger and then, good morning, Happy Capster. Welcome on in. We're talking downtime and just having a hangout. Also, we're talking about why multi-classing sucks. That's our other bit. Oh, also, did you know there's 3 zeros in 100? What are your thoughts on players? By the way, I know you're moving your store, blah blah blah. If Maddie can get the latte cups, get the latte cups. I love this thing. This is like one of my. It's just a good shape. I can feel like I'm moving down the cup and making progress. I just like it. It also might just be a me thing, and if that's the case, I'll just order one. Okay, thoughts on players having to return to town/city to level up. I am a proponent of whatever fits the narrative. If it is going to be 6 sessions before the team gets back to town, I do not want to do that to them. I will let them level up on their next long rest. That being said, I am in a campaign where I have to return to town or to a safe haven to level up, and what that really means is the GM doesn't want us to level up yet because we usually don't have a way to get somewhere safe. So I think that's just something you need to discuss with the party during your session 0 and make sure that's cool with everybody. And at bare minimum, call for a montage. Ask me about the montage mechanic. Now, Commander, is this in reference to leveling up or to multi-classing? Because I think it could work for both. And also, where is the montage mechanic so I can go look it up? Also, this is the Give Heartbeats DMC safe Lo-fi beat stream thing on Spotify. That was a lot of words. Well, yes, mostly leveling, but I see how it could work for both. So Give Heartbeats is by Give Heart Records, which is Nate Wants to Battle. That was a Nate Wants to Battle song that they just turned into a lo-fi mix, and I'm just like, my brain exploded. But anyways, so yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm not a huge fan of it in the one game I'm playing with it, because it feels like we never have a good way to do it. Shadow of the Century from Evil Hat. I'm grabbing the book. Okay. So that's my main thing, is like, I like it, but if it's not benefiting the party to do that, it kind of roughs things up, because what usually ends up happening to me is we say we're going to do it next time we get to a safe haven, and then it's another 3 or 4 sessions before we get to a safe haven, which just doesn't feel fair when you've already been going for 8 sessions and your party's still level 2. Like, there's some give and take there. I like saying, building my story beats around when they're going to level up. So if I want them back in a town when they level up, I'm going to build the story so that they get everything they need, land in town, and I get to say at the end of the session, hey, by the way, you level up. I'm not going to force them waiting, I guess is the way I look at it. Song's called Hand That Feeds. No, count the teeth, bite the hand. Alright, so, just to, like, start on the last one, we have side gigs, which boils down to making money without adventuring. Lurking work, yeah. I forgot, mine's still set up to the old one. So it's like, and thank you for the lurk. Okay, so this is my biggest gripe. This right here is my biggest gripe with all of the money-making activities in Xanathars. Why the fuck is it easier to make money doing this than it is adventuring? To be honest, once your players have decided what they're doing, downtime is a perfect time for a montage. I agree. Thank you. Okay, Gondian? Is that pronounced correctly? Gondian? I'm hoping I'm saying that right. Welcome on in, first off. And second, exactly! This shouldn't be... Okay, cool. Awesome. Welcome on in. These activities, crime, gambling, pit fighting, and work, should not make as much money as adventuring. This should be supplemental income. This should not be... That being said, this could also be running a business. I am reminded of Key and Peele sketch about robbing a bank. You're 100% right. When does a side gig become... And this is probably one I'm not going to do the numbers on today, because that's going to be a lot more math. When does a side gig become an adventure? I have a rogue who does crime in order to plan for the big heist for the party. And that's been the best use of that activity. He doesn't take the gold. Or excuse me, they don't take the gold. Instead, they use the gold to fund the assets for the heist. Almost wanted to give all my player PCs the character flaw, unable to hold down a normal job. I mean, like, to some extent, they're not. This is always, like, temporary work. But in some instances, it's just like, what are you doing? Just, like, go do the quick adventure. And the other issue comes down to... and again, I mentioned this earlier in the chat. I started on 1st/2nd edition in 2011, I want to say. So I never got to play 3 or 4, or 3.5, because my GM never learned it. They grew up on 1st and 2nd with their dad, so that's what we learned. And in there, it's loot earnings. So XP is equal to gold pieces, and otherwise you don't get XP. It's all about escaping with the loot, not fighting the monsters. You got some XP for fighting the monsters, but the gold was really where it was at. That being said, now we get into 5th edition, where money is required to do all of this other stuff, but it's not as important anymore. So when you actually need it, you end up having to do all these side gigs to make money because you want magic items rather than gold. So when does the side gig become an adventure? When do you get to the point where you need so much money you need to just go on an adventure? And that also comes down to the dungeon master. Have you seen an article, Variant Training in 5e by Arcana Times? Let me double check. I believe I have. Yeah. Here's their. I'm looking at their their downtime tracker right now. Yeah, I have seen this because they also did the Monster Harvester Handbook. Sorry, I'm just reading back through it real quick. Yeah, they basically are doing everything I'm doing, breaking down the math and being like, why? Level up montage would be something like, okay, so narrate for me a couple flashback scene fragments of you training up. Do you have a particular song you'd like playing during this, or is the Rocky soundtrack fine? If they work other players into their montage, everybody gets an inspiration token. Interesting. I might have to look into that. Yeah, Gandhian, I'll have to read through this again because it has been a bit. I see that I think when I read it was 2016, so I'll have to look at that again. But yeah, we're doing a lot of the same work here. Like we've already talked about training to an extent, what that actually looks like. I haven't built out all the math yet, but I wanted to get the bare minimum going. And then we've also talked about long-term projects like crafting magic items, building strongholds, what I don't like about those, and then making allies, finding resources, and maintaining relationships, however that may be. Maybe part of your downtime activity. Let's say you have romance in your game. I didn't talk about it, but maintaining relationships may be doing what is essentially the carousing activity to talk to your betrothed or do whatever. That really shouldn't come down to a die roll. That should just be roleplay. But if you want that, you can have it. And then, so side gigs probably won't build out completely. But yeah, basically, we're making money without adventuring. So the higher tier you are as an adventurer, you should probably be making more money for your services instead of just the random schmuck who's making 10 gold pieces a week from work. That's ridiculous. Montages do other stuff in Fate, but I feel like doing something narrowly to acknowledge the upgrade. Yeah, and that's something I would definitely do in a home game. I don't know if I would do that on stream. Because that was my other goal with the downtime rules, was that this is something that could be so easily implemented into a stream, because in a streamed game, you're not keeping track of the calendar. It is so hard to keep track of time in a game without rewatching the VOD to see how many days you actually set in the time. Unless you're wicked good at taking notes, which I'm not. So then it turns into, okay, if you're not making as much money and you have to do these side gigs, maybe you need a smaller adventure. And sorry, I got distracted earlier. It shouldn't be easier to make money doing this than adventuring. If your players are doing side gigs to make more money than they do from adventuring, you need to give them a money-making adventure. Because you're not providing the treasure for them to get the goals that you've agreed to. But yeah, something like maybe you need to give them a side quest because you've had them on your main adventure. Let's say you're running, again, I bring up Curse of Strahd, which is one of the most well spoken about adventures that is out. Like, I look at my shelf, which this isn't all of it, but I look at my shelf and I pick out which adventures I've actually seen get talked about well, and none of them are over here. So then it comes down to, okay, what's the problem with Curse of Strahd? Or what are the benefits? The benefit is you don't make a lot of money and you don't get a lot of magic items, so it feels difficult the whole time, which more classic GMs are used to. But now your players don't feel like they've accomplished anything by the time they're done. Like, I ran Curse of Strahd into Tomb of Horrors into an Underdark game, and the amount of magic items they earned just from doing Tomb of Horrors compared to Curse of Strahd was like 10 to 1. So then it's kind of like, what do you go for? Gondian says, I wrote a small doc yesterday that implements a downtime-ish system to generate tokens that can be used to create flashback solutions during a heist or similar adventure. Can link to it if you want. I'm good. Or at least during stream, I'm good. If you're interested, you can join our Discord and drop it into the Tabletop RPG chat. Otherwise, I probably won't look at it on stream. It's just a personal rule. Alternate take, go adventuring for things other than money, things money can't buy. Clear out this nest of gnolls in order to be commissioned by the Duke. Prestige and improved lifestyle. Also magic items that you can't just buy in shops. Yeah. And again, that depends on what you're trying to get out of your game. Jamie! Hi, Jamie. You hype train conductor, you. Good morning. Oh, it is still morning for you, yeah. So yeah, Jamie, we've been talking downtime. So we've talked downtime in D&D. We've talked why we don't like multi-classing. And why are we making more money in downtime than in the adventure? And that kind of comes down to what game you're running. Oh, and when is a good time to level up? Oh, and Gandhian, thank you so much for the follow. I meant to say that earlier. Jamie probably got more snow yesterday than I did. We're not getting snow until tonight, I think. Tonight into tomorrow. Or is it Sunday into Monday? It's one of the two. All I know is it's fucking cold. Oh, it's double digits now. It's 10 degrees outside. Downtime has always been a thing I struggled with because you just end up RPing it. Yeah, and that's why I'm kind of building it more like Blades in the Dark, where you can RP it more. What's wrong with multiclassing? Basically, multiclassing, just like, most of the time, there's not a narrative reason to it. And then when you are multiclassing, you really just want like one or two things out of the class, not the whole package. So then, why not just train or get a feat that just gets you the things you want, rather than having to multi-class and lose out on things from your main class. And I guess it's kind of where you got into. Didn't 3.5 have like dual classing or something where you leveled up in two classes at once, but you picked what abilities you got, something like that. And then there's always prestige classes, which I ended up deciding if I ever do prestige in 5th edition, it's going to be a set of feats that you take rather than additional levels in something. Because I, again, feel like you should just have your main class and then build a kit around your class. That being said, I also let my players train feats. So if you find a trainer for Gunslinger, then you can learn all the gunslinging feats, and there you go. But yeah, so let's see. Yeah, the DMG has boons. They have boons and blessings. The problem with boons is like they're supposed to be the equivalent to a level up, and yeah, it kind of just depends. So you could give them out as that. Also, was it Fizzbins, which is over here somewhere? Maybe it's in. Oh no, it's in the living room now. Because we were using it for our other game. Fizzbins has like the draconic blessings. So you could go that route if you wanted. There's different ways to give rewards now, but again, I feel like the thing a lot of people try to use is Xanathars, and it doesn't accomplish what I feel like it should be set to do. Maybe, I don't know. Did want to see real quick. All is live because I think we're getting. I'm cool with hanging out for a bit, but I kind of want to start figuring out who to raid. I think it's gonna be Outlaws Network if they're still going. But yeah, mainly because I'm stuffy and I'd rather just go sneeze for 20 minutes. But yeah. So I think we have a good baseline for downtime. What it comes down to now is me spending time on it, throw it in layout, and kind of outline. This was the thought process. Here's what we ended up saying. Like, hey, we want the tier system to do this. All my stuff down. We want the tier system to do this. We want the D20 roll to be about this. And so if you're accomplishing tasks, this is what you end up with. The brain map is complete. Now to make it pretty. Yes, exactly. That is essentially what we're doing here. The brain map is done. There's a lot of math that has to be done, but that's okay. And then we'll start really looking at, okay, we have this document that seems good. Now need to play test it or run it by people who do downtime more than I do and see what they think and see what they feel like is missing. And that also comes down to if their philosophy on downtime is different than mine. Because, like, my friend LJ, who ran Storm King's Thunder Forest, did downtime in 1 year chunks, which I wasn't a fan of because it meant I had to do however many weeks of, I think ended up being 50 based off their calendar, all at once. So then I didn't feel good about it because I was spending like hours on it versus what should be 1 or 2 rolls. But it might be what's easiest for them. Just depends. So I think we have a good starting plate for everything. Downtime, research spells, summon Greater Baja Blast. I did not include making your own spells in this. I probably should, but it's just do the Stronghold activity from Strongholds and Followers. Summon Greater Baja Blast. I had Taco Bell yesterday, but I didn't get a Baja Blast. I probably should have. But yeah, I think we're going to wrap up here, and we're going to go check out Outlaws Network. So I'm going to go ahead and get that ready. This is intended for mature audiences, so please keep that in mind. But, I mean, you've been here, so it should be fine. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. The next stream on Huntsman's Hydra will be on Wednesday. Strings Attached, our D&D 5th edition game, is on hiatus due to scheduling conflicts, so I think we're going to play some more Magic the Gathering. We'll see. Also may take the day off depending on what's going on. next stream from the founders of Huntsman's Hydra, we have Mischievous Red on Monday and myself on Tuesday. And then also be sure to check out Commander Pulsar, Jamie Wolf, and Zerjester, who are all streaming at different times. Zerjester doesn't stream on the weekends, Jamie streams on Sunday, Commander Pulsar streams on Sunday, and potentially today. And Happy Capster, who streams Monday evening, and maybe Sunday night. Kind of depends on what them and James are up to. If I don't have a game that night, I'll be there. Sounds good. All right. And with that, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time. See ya!